Hi everyone, this is John Girardi with Right to Life of Central California, bringing you another video in our 40 Videos for 40 Days for Life series. 40 Days for Life is the international campaign of prayer and presence outside abortion clinics throughout the country and throughout the world. If you want to learn more about our 40 Days for Life campaign, visit us at www.rtlcc.org or give us a call at 559-229-2229. Today I want to talk about this concept that we see with Supreme Court decisions and American law regulating abortion. It's called the abortion distortion. Basically, one of the fundamental premises of the pro-choice movement is that abortion is basic women's health care. Now, I reject this. Abortion isn't health care. Health care involves fixing something wrong with the human body. Abortion is not fixing something that's wrong with the human body. It's something chosen for social reasons to arrest a natural bodily process called pregnancy. So I reject that premise. But if you accept the premise that abortion is healthcare, then it is something that naturally should be regulated by state governments pretty freely. One of the core responsibilities of state governments is the ability to regulate public health. Okay, in our country, we have this system of federalism where the federal government is government of limited and enumerated powers. Basically, the federal government can only do the stuff that the Constitution says it can do, and any law that Congress passes has to have some hook somewhere in the text of the Constitution as its rationale. State governments, however, are different. State governments have what's called the police power, and that's a legal term of art. It doesn't mean state governments are all police states or institute martial law or something like that. It basically means that state governments have broader powers to regulate criminal law, contract law, our various aspects of our public life. And one of the key core central areas of state law, of where state governments have power to regulate, is in the field of public health. We have all seen this in spades over the last 2 years, over the course of the COVID pandemic, how much power courts recognized state governments had to shut down businesses and impose all kinds of restrictions on people in the interest of public health. And this is why I find it so ridiculous that anytime a state government comes up with some way of restricting abortion, for example, Texas and Louisiana, they tried to pass laws saying that no abortion clinic can exist if it isn't within a 30-mile radius of a hospital where the abortion doctor has admitting privileges. This seems like a reasonable healthcare regulation. Texas and Louisiana probably pass dozens and dozens of laws and regulations regulating the practice of healthcare in those states all the time. And yet, it's only this regulation of abortion that somehow goes all the way to the Supreme Court. Because of the bizarre way in which the Supreme Court, the pro-choice side has said, well, abortion is basic healthcare, but it's also the most important fundamental constitutional right. All of a sudden, anytime any state passes some kind of a novel abortion law, it winds up in front of the Supreme Court, as if the Supreme Court is some kind of healthcare advisory board for all abortion regulations. And it kind of shows the silliness of our abortion legislation that's not what the Supreme Court's supposed to be. And there's just they are acting in this way without any sure grounding in the Constitution that abortion is even protected by the Constitution at all. At the very least, I would say the opposite, that the Constitution can be read very reasonably as protecting the right to life of all human beings, including human beings who are not born yet. But at the very least, I think a much more reasonable stance for the court to take would be, listen, this shouldn't be our domain, that we're, gonna make a decision about whether a 30-mile, radius for admitting privileges is reasonable or not, when the Constitution has nothing to say about abortion. And that's, I think, probably the best case scenario we can reasonably expect as pro-lifers from the Dobbs decision is that the court will effectively just say every state can regulate abortion however they want. And I think that's the most likely outcome, and I think that's the outcome we'll see this June. For Right to Life of Central California, I'm John Girardi.